switch gears, Governor, we want to ask you about Iran. The White House taking a strong stance against Iran after it tested ballistic missiles in a show of aggression. Listen to this.
President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice.
On notice, Governor. And then President Trump tweeted out this morning, here's what he said in his tweet today: Iran has been formally put on notice for firing a ballistic missile. Should have been thankful for the terrible deal that the U.S. made with them. Iran was on its last legs and ready to collapse until the U.S. came along and gave it a lifeline in the form of the Iran deal, $150 billion in cash. The administration's next step against the country, obviously still to be determined, Governor, but what does that mean to you, put on notice?
I think putting them on notice that we're not going to tolerate their menacing behavior and their violations of UN resolutions and treaties is a good thing. And frankly, it's long overdue. Iran has been engaged in menacing behavior with respect to U.S. military assets in the region, our allies' assets in the region. They've been flirting with violating the nuclear treaty. They've been thumbing their nose at UN resolutions, including the ballistic missile resolution, and they've been coddled. And bullies respect strength and not weakness, and I think a declarative statement from President Trump and General Flynn is long overdue and exactly on point, and they only will respect strength, and they didn't see that, unfortunately, in the Obama administration.
Yeah. Governor, I couldn't agree with you more on the importance of setting a new tone with Iran and what this new administration will do. When you look at the JCPOA, the Iran deal, it's a multi-party agreement. It's not a bilateral agreement between the U.S. and Iran. So what are the practical steps that you think that the president and his team can take to either can they amend this deal, or what can they do going forward to have it more than just putting them on notice?
Well, they can do a number of things. First of all, if they're trying to warm up our relationships with Russia, Russia has very important relationships with Iran. So exploring how Russia could be helpful in this dynamic may be of some value, although I'm very skeptical of Russia as well. Number two, when Iran does things like take runs at our ships in the region, you have to tell them, you do that again, we're going to light you up. We're going to fire back, or we're going to fire at you. And next, when you violate the ballistic missile treaty, we're going to put sanctions on. And if the world community won't do it, we'll do it ourselves as the U.S. But I think you got to work with the allies and try to get everybody to do it. And then lastly, you have to look them in the eye and say, if you violate that nuclear treaty, there are going to be more consequences.
Yeah.
But this idea that you have agreements that nobody enforces means the agreements themselves don't mean anything. And that becomes a very dangerous world.
How's President Trump doing so far in your view, Governor?
Well, I was a Trump supporter. I became a skeptic after some of the revelations during his campaign, but I have to say he's off to a strong start, and I'm hopeful for how he does from here.
All right, we'll leave it there. Governor, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Governor Tim Pawlenty there.